Thanksgiving is literally my favorite holiday. Yes, more so than Christmas, and don't let my wife hear this, but even more fun than Halloween. It is by far the last unappropriated holiday where commercialism doesn't rule the roost other than maybe for turkeys and apple pie. So I got to thinking, what would be an appropriate music factoid for this day? I searched around but could not find anything that really jumped out. I mean, sure, we all know that Jingle Bells is really written about Thanksgiving, but it'll never really feel that way after all the long years of it sitting with Christmas. It was then I realized that there really is only one true Thanksgiving song that would fill the need for a music factoid. Of course, I'm thinking of Alice's Restaurant. Every year after the Thanksgiving Day parade, and especially if we were going to a relative's house, we would listen to Alice's Restaurant. It was a Thanksgiving tradition, as it should be, so without further ado, let us find out about this great Thanksgiving song. Alice's Restaurant Massacre, commonly known as Alice's Restaurant, is a satirical talking blues song by singer-songwriter Arlo Guthrie, released as the title track to his 1967 debut album, Alice's Restaurant. The song is a deadpan protest against the Vietnam War draft in the form of a comically exaggerated but largely true story from Guthrie's own life. While visiting acquaintances in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, he is arrested and convicted of dumping trash illegally, which later endangers his suitability for the military draft. The title refers to a restaurant owned by one of Guthrie's friends, artist Alice Brock. Although she is a minor character in the story, the restaurant plays no role in it aside from being the subject of the chorus and the impetus for Guthrie's visit. According to Wikipedia, the song was an inspiration for the 1969 film also named Alice's Restaurant, which took numerous liberties with the story. The work has become Guthrie's signature song and has periodically re-released it with updated lyrics. In 2017, it was selected for preservation from the National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or artistically significant. Guthrie recounts events that took place in 1965, 2 years prior at the time of the original recording, when he and a friend spent Thanksgiving Day at a deconsecrated church on the outskirts of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, with their friends Alice and Ray Brock. As a favor to them, Guthrie and the friend volunteered to take the large accumulation of garbage to the local dump in their VW microbus. Not realizing until they arrived there that the dump would be closed for the holiday, they eventually noticed a pile of other trash that had previously been dumped off a cliff near a side road and added theirs to the accumulation. The next morning, the church received a phone call from the local policeman, Officer Obi, saying that an envelope in the garbage pile had been traced back to them. Guthrie, stating, "I cannot tell a lie," with his tongue-in-cheek, confessed that he put that envelope underneath the garbage, and he and his friend drove to the police station expecting a verbal reprimand and to be required to clean up the garbage, but they were instead arrested, handcuffed, and taken to the scene of the crime. There, Obi and a crew of police officers from the surrounding areas collected extensive forensic evidence of the litter, including 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. Amid a media circus of local media trying to get news stories on the littering, the young men were briefly jailed, with Obi taking drastic precautions to prevent Guthrie from escaping or committing suicide. After a few hours, Alice bailed them all out. Guthrie and his friends stood trial the next day. When Obi saw that the judge relied upon a seeing eye dog, he realized that the officer's meticulous work had been foiled by a literal case of American blind justice. Guthrie and his friend paid a $50 fine to the court and were ordered to pick up the garbage. Guthrie then states that the littering incident was not what I came to tell you about, and shifts to another story, this one based at the Army Building on Whitehall Street in New York City, as Guthrie appeared for a physical exam related to the Vietnam War draft. He tried various strategies to be found unfit for military service, including getting drunk the night before so he was so hungover, and attempting to convince the psychiatrist that he was homicidal, which only earned him praise. After several hours, Guthrie was asked whether he had ever been convicted of a crime. He nodded and began to tell his story and was sent to the Group W bench to file for a moral waiver. The other convicts, mother rapers and father stabbers and father rapers, were initially put off that his conviction had been for littering, but accepted him when he added and creating a nuisance. And when Guthrie noticed one of the questions on the paperwork asked whether he had been rehabilitated himself since the crime, he noted the irony of having to prove himself reformed from a crime of littering when the realities of war were often far more brutal. The officer in charge of the induction process has commented, "We don't like your kind," rejecting Guthrie and sending his fingerprints to the federal government to be put on file. In the final part of the song, Guthrie explains to the live audience that anyone finding themselves in a similar situation should walk into a military psychiatrist's offices, singing the opening line from the chorus, and walk out. He predicts that a single person doing it would be rejected as sick, and that 2 people doing it in harmony would be rejected but that once 3 people started doing it, they would begin to suspect an organization, and 50 people a day would be recognized as the Alice's Restaurant anti-massacre movement. And he continues finger-picking. He invites the audience to sing the chorus with them the next time it comes around on the guitar. When they do so, Guthrie claims that the singing was horrible and challenges them to sing with him with 4-part harmony and feeling this time. And Guthrie and the crowd then sings the chorus and he wraps it up. It has become a tradition for many classic rock and adult album alternative radio stations to play the song each Thanksgiving. In 2018, Guthrie began the Alice's Restaurant Back by Popular Demand tour, reuniting with members of his 1970s backing band Shenandoah. The tour, which featured Guthrie's daughter Sarah Lee Guthrie as the opening act, was scheduled to wrap up in 2020. To justify bringing the song back out of its usual 10-year sequence, he stated that he was doing so to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the film version of the song. The tour ended in 2019 and was later confirmed to have been Guthrie's last. He had suffered a career-ending stroke in November that year and announced his retirement in October of 2020. And regardless of your thoughts of the song, it is still considered a traditional Thanksgiving song, as it is generally played publicly and on the radio, and even on the TV sometimes, during this period. We here at Musical Factoids hope that you have a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving with your family and your friends. Be sure to reach out to those people who you haven't spoke to all year and let them know that you were thinking of them.